Hello, hello. Oh, we got right into it. All right, so I was going to prep you. I was going to say we're going to go 0 to 100, but we're already there. Whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. That's going to be the overall theme. That's about everything that we're going to talk about today. By a show of hands, how many of you guys are freelance? Animators, designers, producers? We got a bunch. How many is full-time? How many is full-time but wants to go freelance, but won't raise their hand because they don't want to get in trouble? All right. So right now is where I would warn you. We're going to go 0 to 100. We're going to be blunt. But again, you already saw it. So admittedly, I may have had a sip of bourbon when I made this slide. And I woke up the next day and I looked at it and I was like, oh, shit, am I going to say that? And then I thought about it. I was like, the irony of doubting myself for telling you to say fucked out. I think that's not going to work. Here's why, though, I think this is so important. This is why I think that we really do need to take a second and be as blunt. OK Motion set this up actually phenomenally, and thank you for that. Doubt will take absolutely everything from you. You could be the absolute best presenter, best animator, designer, intern, teacher. It doesn't matter what you are. You could be the best parent. The second you let doubt creep into your mind, though, the second you let somebody put doubt in your mind, I promise you it's going to feel like a terrible addiction, and you will chase everything that you can to try to kill that feeling, and it will cripple the best of us. All right? So doubt doesn't get any place in our head. This week, the next 2 days, I really want to challenge y'all to do one thing for me. Well, I'm going to ask you to do a whole lot of things for me. Fuck doubt. If you guys are at any point walking through somewhere and you see me and you're like, Steve said something, I want to talk to him and I want to ask him, oh, but he's with somebody. No, Dad, come talk to me. If you see Dottie and you're like, oh, her presentation was amazing, and I have so many questions about Golden Wolf. Sorry, Dottie, if everybody bothers you. But if you go up and you talk to her, like, we welcome that. Oh, okay, thank you. It's good to know that peace and happiness are skills. They're not traits, all right? There's something that we have to learn on, we have to build on. And the best way that we can do that is by saying, fuck doubt. Rachel touched on this earlier today. There's the 12 principles of animation. For us who are animators, you all already know these, or you should, or just pretend you do. For those of you who aren't, it's essentially a core set of principles that was made by Disney. Ollie Johnson and Frank Thomas, two of the animators at Disney, made it more famous. It's the foundation for creating anything beautiful and all the compelling images that we do and that we use day to day. Today I want to talk a little bit differently, though. I'm going to take a riff off of that, and we're going to talk about the 12 principles of freelance. This will apply to you if you are freelance. This will apply to you if you're full-time. Hopefully this will apply to you in your everyday life. It's just 12 principles of freelance because that's kind of catchy. So I want you to know something right off the gate, though, before we get too deep into this. These are my core values. It's how I carry myself based upon all the mistakes I've made in my career. And I've made a ton, and some of you here have probably even seen them. The whole point of everything that we're all doing today, the whole reason we're all up here, is we want you to be the best version of you. We aren't up here to talk about ourselves. We aren't up here to feed our ego or anything like that. We don't have an ego. We are up here in hopes to inspire you, to let you know that you being you is the best thing that you can do in this industry. It feeds something so much more. So, yeah, we're going to get right into this. First thing, timing and spacing. Some of you know this. I have a few people who have been in my class before, and I'm sorry you got to listen to me talk yet again and even more. I have a 15-minute rule. By a show of hands, again, I'm not going to ask too much work, just a little bit of hand raising every now and then. How many of you have gotten client feedback that pissed you off? All right, now how many of you got client feedback that pissed you off, and then after a little bit of time, you realize maybe you overreacted? Yeah, you start reading that email, and you go red, and you go, oh. All right, what's going on here is we respond emotionally, immediately. We regret what we said, and it's because we didn't allow ourselves enough time to process the information. We were presented with a situation we weren't ready for. If you guys listened in the producers panel, they'd all brought it up. You know, sometimes saying, I don't know. Sometimes buying time is the best way to go about it. We feel the need to respond immediately because why not? Here's the thing. We can't meet force with force, not with any aspect of our lives. Not with animation, not with design, not with working with a team, not with feedback. I've made that mistake way too many times. Now I'm all old man Steve up here talking to you all about it. But force with force is never going to work. So I want you to know that life is not going to be a perfectly worded movie for you. It's not going to be like John Wick or Deadpool. We're going to say the coolest things. John Wick is a great movie. Don't fight me on this. Our minds need to be clear. That will lead to better judgment. Joey Corman said this at one point, and a lot of people have said this, and I keep repeating it all of the time, is talent is the price of admission. You all are fucking talented, all right? You're all at your own levels, but you're all fucking killing it. You're working to get to somewhere. You started here, and you're bridging that gap slowly and slowly and slowly. Then you bridge that gap, and you're like, oh, okay, there's another one. Let's keep going. When it comes to judgment, we overlook that. When it comes to how we work up here, we tend to overlook that. What I want to remind you is it's not just about you when that feedback comes in, all right? And you go red, because I do too. The other side, the people working with you, they deserve you at your best. For those of you who are freelancers, remember, you are lucky to be able to be teaming up with the people that you get to team up with, the way that you get to learn and that experience. You are a part of somebody else's team. They have families. They may have secretaries. They may have receptionists who are working their asses off just to try to feed their family. So maybe when you get that feedback, that kind of sucks, and you're like, oh, I really don't want to do this, keep those people in mind, all right? Everybody deserves you at your best. It's important that you answer promptly, but without emotions. So, to full circle this, 15 minutes is my rule. Anytime you are presented with a situation, and this is something that I challenge all of you to do, that makes you want to react emotionally, don't respond for 15 minutes. The really messed up part is I've worked with some people here, and they're going to be like, that son of a bitch did that to me. Sorry. The reason is you need time to balance your mind. Formulate a plan, okay? And then go from there. If somebody catches you off guard in an email, it's really easy to not respond in an email for 15 minutes. But if somebody approaches you, if a producer, a creative director, if an intern, anybody who approaches you and says something, it's really simple to just say, hey, thanks, just give me a few moments to look this over. I'll come up with a plan and I'll get right back to you. Cool, all right, sounds good. That's gonna be all that you need to do. So 15 minutes to please not burn your career to the ground like I have almost done many times. All right, moving on. Squash and stretch, just so you know, some of these are gonna be short, condensed, some of these are gonna be long, longer. So I need you all to do me a favor. Again, I'm not asking too much, but everybody right now, and I can only see a little bit, look up at the stars right now, or look at the stars. Just, anyway. It's not surprising to see a majority of y'all looking up. Now think about that. You can literally look in any direction you want because they're all around you, but we tend to look up. Information, knowledge, everything in our life, it all works the exact same way, and it's everywhere, yet we tend to lock into one absolute area. We could teach and do a whole thing just on different types of cognitive biases. By show of hands, who knows what cognitive biases are, or some of them? If you don't, look them up. They're really, really interesting. And it's a way of saying, hey, your brain is going to do some things. We can't help it. Our brain's wired that way. It sifts through information. It helps us support what we believe. In-group bias is one of the biggest ones, and I think I'm guilty of it. I know many people are, that you tend to look inwards within our bubble for information. But there's so much great shit outside of this world or outside of our industry that we can learn from. So many successful people, motivated people that are out there killing it day in and day out. And we can take those pieces from them by learning. So we need to kill this in-group bias shit. And that's why I love the fact that, you know, this is not just an animation festival or conference. We got to learn from producers. We get to learn from studio heads that are starting stuff up. Everything I'm going to tell you, everything I talk about today are pieces that I've picked up along the way. Things that I've picked up from people by asking, by learning. Two of my closest friends. One, Jason. He is a commercial real estate salesman up in Michigan and super successful. Me and him once, sorry, I'm breaking. Me and him at least once a month, we'll go get coffee, breakfast, and we'll start talking back and forth. Hey man, what's working for you? And I'll be, what's working for you? He's dealing with $200 million properties, $400 million properties. He's like, yeah, yeah, he's got some information for me. And when I went freelance, he was one of the best resources. I have another really close friend that I do a bunch of endurance races with. Her name's Miranda. She does data research, and trying to listen to her describe her job is really interesting, but she'll pull quantitative and qualitative data, essentially, formulate a plan, and that way she'll take it to a business and say, this is what you do. This is what you don't do. This is worth your time, this is not worth your time. And she's another one that I've learned so much from just by looking outwards. So the whole point of squashing and stretching is squash all that stuff that your brain wants to normally do, stretch your mind, which is a really cheesy way of saying it, but, you know. Anticipation. Love anticipation. Things will go wrong. They're going to. Kicking off anything new, though, it requires we have to know the end game first. And when I say end game, I automatically think of Thanos, and it's really fucking cool, and I wanted to put a GIF of Thanos, but I like this more. Here's what I mean by that. We need to know the consequences of our actions. Then we make the right decisions to capitalize on that. When we save time, our value and the value of the companies we're working for or with also increases. So I'm going to start asking a couple questions, and just spit out answers for me. I really don't care. And remember when I said fucked out? If you think, oh, I don't want to say anything, or maybe, now's the time. But I'm going to call Andy out first because I see him. Andy, tell me anything that can go wrong with a new client. Just any one thing that comes to mind. Building relationships. Somebody else. With a new client, what can go wrong? Zach. Expectations. It's real bad if I know your name. Expectations with new clients is great. Now, what can go wrong with clients that you already existingly have? People that you've worked with already a ton. You up front on the left that I don't know your name. What's your name? Alex. Alex, great to meet you. What can go wrong with clients that you already have? There's no wrong answer, really.
Like if you already have like a set deal that you've had in the past and then that needs to get changed.
Yes, change the scope, change the project. How many projects have you guys been on that, oh, we got 3 weeks, oh, now we have 7 weeks and we need twice as much work? Or it goes the opposite way, 2 weeks. The point is that in life, a lot of things can go wrong. You could be out hiking the mountains this week, and all of a sudden it rains when it's not supposed to rain, and you're in a hammock, and now you got to go sleep under a tree, hiding underneath it with pillows as your shoes, because you're cold. Not speaking from experience. Talking on stage, things can go wrong. Regardless, things can go wrong. You guys got to adapt. We need to anticipate that things are going to go wrong, because they are. So I learned this from Daniel Pink, and I say that like he told me personally. He didn't. I watched one of his master classes. And his idea was, have a post-mortem before something starts. So by a show of hands, how many of you have been a part of a post-mortem? All right, for those of you who have, you've been through it. Those of you who don't know what it means is essentially at the end of a project, you kind of convene with the whole group, and then you talk about everything that went wrong, and try to figure out how to not let that happen again. In my opinion, the downfall of postmortems is everybody's already salty at that point. It's not a good vibe. It's just people aren't happy. You just want to be done with it, on to the next thing. So if you have a postmortem before something starts, if you get a new client, if you get an email that says, hey, are you available for booking? What's your rate? Here's a couple questions. Before you even go all wild, be very blunt. What can go wrong? Well, I like being paid at net 30. Let's put that out there right in the beginning. Let's make sure that I'm open with all of this information. That's something we're going to actually touch base on in a second. I'm not going to go too far into that right now. It's going to move us over into ease. Animation. Ease is very important. Otherwise, everything feels very linear. There's one time where linear, I think, works really nice, and that's if you're moving cameras. See, I'm going to teach you some animation shit, too. Sometimes when you're doing camera work and it's called cut to cut to cut, if you're always easing in and then easing out, it just feels a little weird. So linear movements work there. But when it comes to what we're doing here, ease is essentially saying it's not about you. And it's a very important rule and a very, I don't know how to necessarily say this. It's something I'm glad I learned, and I wish I would have learned earlier. I want you to be very honest with yourself. And you don't have to say anything out loud. This isn't going to be one of those times where I call on you. How often are you putting others ahead of yourself? Like truly putting others ahead of yourself? All right, here's the thing. Who's been in a meeting and bad news hits? And all of a sudden you realize something bad's happening. You get bad feedback, bad client feedback, and kind of like we were talking about with the 15 rule, buying time, you're not buying time, or somebody's not buying time. And all of a sudden somebody says something like, oh yeah, fuck that, that's stupid. And then somebody else is like, oh yeah, and then just bad starts feeding bad. There's a legend that says there's two wolves inside us all. You guys may have heard this. And there's a good one and there's an evil one. And the one that lives is the one that you feed. Thinking about that is, what are you putting into this world? How are you responding to stuff? When you're in a room and things go wrong, what's your reaction like? When a creative director gives you feedback, what's your reaction like? These are all things that I want you to start to be cognizant of how you're reacting and acting, because like producer said earlier, sometimes talent isn't what's going to get you hired over and over again. It's who you are as a person, all right? We're all doing this just because we enjoy it. That's what it comes down to, all right? So let's keep feeding that good wolf. So a quick way to react, at least that I try to do when things get weird with a project, every time, it's not upset, it's not angry, it's, all right, well, we knew that was coming. No big deal. It sucks in my head. In my head, I'm like, oh, no. But again, all you have to do is calm, confident responses, and that can ease a whole room. Moving on, follow through. Simply put, yes means nothing without how. All right, I can tell you yes, anybody can tell you yes, but if there's not an actionable plan after that, nothing's happening. Have you ever misunderstood what was being asked of you or the direction that you've gotten? I have, and it is a terrible feeling. You feel like you let somebody down. You feel like no longer do you have that integrity that you try to hold yourself to. First, let's look in the mirror, because the only thing we can control is ourselves. So in those moments where something may go wrong, let's make sure we point the fingers at ourselves. This is just, again, rules that I live by. All right? If I can control it, cool, I can fix it. If I can't control it, cool, I can't control it. Simple as that. If we look in the mirror, because it's the only thing we can control, we can actually move towards something. Pointing fingers solves nothing. It doesn't matter who's to blame. What matters is, what are you going to do moving forward? As freelancers, as full-timers, again, value, judgment, these are all things that we're trying to grow on. New scripts and plugins are really cool, especially if it's easy copy. But again, that's not going to make or break our careers. This stuff does. Everything up here, in my opinion, does. It's going to save both time. It's going to save relationships. And sometimes it's just being a good human. So again, yes means nothing without how. Chris Voss, who's a negotiator, has a masterclass, a great book, Never Split the Difference, which teaches a whole lot of great stuff. But he has a thing called the rule of three, and it's getting the other party to agree 3 times in the same conversation to what's going on. How does he do that? He'll do confirming questions. So I'll say, hey, this is what I need, in which you'll follow up, okay, so you need this. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so as we start working towards this, I'm going to make sure I do this because that's going to add to that. Now, I'm giving you very generic shit, like not anything specific. But what I want you to take away from that is maybe saying maybe 3 times is too much for you. Maybe you don't feel comfortable with 3. Maybe 1 or 2 is, but make sure you're repeating things back to people as you get direction. Producers were talking about sometimes there's miscommunication with Slack. I got off a booking working with Fabio over at Giant Ant, who is one of the greatest cell animators. Oh man, he's so talented. But every time he needed something or we had to work and figure something out, we jumped on a quick call and had a face-to-face. Nothing ever got mixed up. It was easy. It took 10 minutes. You get a little bit of FaceTime. You're a human when you have FaceTime. When you're just email or Slack, you're just words. I want to see your face. I want to talk to you. I'm working with Zach right now on a project, and I kind of feel bad, but I don't. Every morning, me and him will have a kickoff call. He'll be like, you want to have a call? And he might be drinking his coffee with his kid, and like, God, please say no. And I'm like, yep, let's have one. It's just 10, 20 minutes just to make sure that we're on the same page. And in doing that, there's no miscommunication. So again, if you're freelance, miscommunication will cost you money. It will cost you time, and it will cost the company you're working with money and time. Our goal is to make everybody else's life easier. All right? That's what we want. We want to be valued. We want to go hired back. Being hired for one place one time doesn't mean anything. It's getting that repeat business, those repeat inquiries. That's what we're going for. So, closing that chapter real quick, I have a very simple if-then rule that I took from Tim Ferriss. And what it says is that if you send an email or a conversation to anybody, make sure you have an if or when, or if and when. So an example, Hey, can you meet for coffee next week? That's a bad example. Why is that a bad example? Here's a better example. Hey, can you meet for coffee Monday, 10 o'clock? And if that doesn't work, I'm available. I'm free for about a half hour at 3 o'clock. First off, that's a lie. None of us are ever available at 3 o'clock. But the point is, now I've given you an email or something crafted that you only have to say yes to or no to. We're no longer in an email communication chain where things get all lost. Our job is to ease things for everybody else. So when you're talking to producers, maybe sometimes with bookings, you look at the if, when. Not, yes, I'm available, and just say nothing. No, say more. Make it easy for everybody else to communicate with you. ARCs. You guys should see this GIF in everybody's presentation. I'm wearing pants right now, otherwise I'd awkwardly show you this thing's tattooed on my leg right now. Summed up, everything's going to have its ups and downs. In your career, in your life, that's just how it works. And this one, I'm going to get a little bit really serious about. So I'm sorry for that to be a downer, but it's just meant to be an honest assessment that I want you to make inwardly. How often, and I'm guilty of this too, so please don't think I'm up here I'm actually probably more guilty than everybody. How often do you find that you lack motivation? Or all of a sudden you're like, you get started something, it's not firing. There's things that aren't working. Actually, I'm going to go back. What ends up happening is we go all day and we subconsciously realize that we are desiring what we don't have. Whether it be something you saw on social media, whether it be a trip somebody's on, whether it be an opportunity that somebody else got that you didn't have, a project that somebody else is working on, a skill set, it doesn't matter. We spend so much of our day desiring what we don't have, and then we wonder, well, why aren't we happy? Well, we're not happy because we're not focusing on ourselves. We aren't trying to fix that. Again, we need to fix up here. Up here fixes everything else. So, we got it. Has anybody heard of the 5 chimps theory? Raise your hand if you have. Simply put, what it says is, if you take one chimp, it will be the average of the 5 that it hangs out with. Transferring that over to us as people, if you take yourself and look at the 5 closest people in your life, and this is where I say, I'm sorry to make this uncomfortable, I'm just asking you to be honest with yourself. What wolves are those people feeding? Are those people around you toxic, or are those people great? You know, are the people that you're working with, are they bringing you up? Are they supporting you? Are they positive influences? Are you a positive influence? Think about what's directly around you. So next time you sit there and you're like, maybe I'm lacking motivation, maybe things are a little bit tough, look inwards at everything that's going on, because that could be where you fix your problem. You're never as great as your highest performing piece, but you're never as bad as your worst or your worst booking. All right, exaggeration. In animation, exaggeration is amazing. I love it. In life, it is terrible. Please do not over-exaggerate the role or your level of importance on a project ever, as a freelancer, as a full-timer, as a human, I don't give a shit what it is. Let your hard work speak for itself. Make it about everybody else around us, not you. Your work will speak for itself. Early on in my career, I didn't understand that. And I'm sure, and I hope you guys are a lot better than I am. But I would be so focused on, all right, I need I. And it's not about I. It's about everybody else. If you can work with everybody else around you, if you can uplift them, everything else speaks for itself. All right? So we got to kill that ego every day. We're going to do it in 2 ways. We're going to not make it about us. And the second way we're going to do it is we're going to challenge ourselves to do something uncomfortable. Because what that means is when we get forced into situations that are uncomfortable, we know how to act. We're not worried. It goes back to our 15-minute rule. It goes back to ease. It goes back to everything that we keep talking about. It all keeps layering. All right? Challenge yourself to do something uncomfortable at least once a week. This should foreshadow something. I am going to give you guys a challenge. And if you do it and you want to, just tag dash bash, put dash challenge 1. You don't have to do anything more. Trust me when I tell you, you don't have to do anything more. Does anybody know who Wim Hof is? All right, good, because that would have, for those of you who do, you know where this is going. Wim Hof, I'll let you read about him. Very interesting read for sure. I'm asking you to do something uncomfortable. Some of you may not know what's uncomfortable, what's the challenge, I'm not telling you to do endurance events like I do or any of that kind of stuff, or go run 20 miles today. I'm asking you to do one thing. For 30 seconds, today or tomorrow morning, make sure your shower's cold when you're in it. Steve's an ass. Here's the thing. You can do it in the beginning, you can do it at the end, you can do it in the middle. All right, and what's going to happen is you're going to turn that water cold and you'll be like, oh, this is going to be bad. And it is. And the shock's going to hit you and you're like, nope. But when you want to say no, when you want to jump out, when you don't want any part of that life anymore, just be like, no, it's just 30 seconds. I'm not going to die. I actually take cold water showers now. Every now and then I don't, but it's because I actually feel more refreshed. I feel better when I get out the shower. I'm more assertive, and it took me a while. I worked my way up. I was doing 15 seconds, 30 seconds, up to like 4 minutes, and I was like, why am I standing here for 4 minutes? So that said, I challenge all of y'all. You don't have to post about it. If you do, please just leave it at #challenge1. But doing something uncomfortable, it's a great thing. It forces you to try new things. It forces you to live life. Does anybody here want to go hike to the top of a mountain? Raise your hand. Perfect. Who wants to go hike to the top of a mountain in Colorado? All right. Keep your hands up. I need somebody to walk up to this side of the stage right now. Oh, yeah, fucked out. Time to get it. Yep, shit just got real. Perfect. So, this is a rock from Mount Torres. This is not a rock from outside in the parking lot that I was like, oh, I got to go to ID for my speech. I was just on top of that mountain 3 days ago, and it's beautiful. World, everything's a little bit different. I'm going to give you this because it's real now. All right? There's yes means nothing without how. Now he knows the end game. He said, I want to go to the top of the mountain. Great. Now I need you to do something for me, though. You got to put it back, because that's not mine. So, sorry, not sorry. Here's what I want to say about that. One, I fucking believe in you, and I know you're going to do it. Number two, when you get to the top of that mountain, here's what I want you to do. Grab a rock off of that, and then do that move to somebody else. And then you can name the move after yourself, too, because you're the first one that actually kind of did it, unless my daughter beats you, because I did the same thing to her, because I'm a great parent. 8, solid drawing. All right. My joke was my 35 minutes I had with you, I was going to come out, sit down, say draw more, and just stare at you. And that triggered people. Also, I don't know if I'm too old to give you guys this reference about practice, but here's something that I want you to know. We end up committing to learning on the job. How many of us learn by doing? Well, yeah, it's a good thing. But we also need to learn when we aren't being paid to learn. All right, we need to practice our skills offset. There's great things that you can learn also by working with people, but taking Skillshare classes, taking school motion classes, Smograph mentor, I'm not trying to be an advocate for any of those classes, but just learning from other people within our industry and what we do, growing our skill sets, that's going to go really far for you. If you think about athletes, they get paid, but they train nonstop. Every part of their life is training, what they eat, how they move, act, everything. Let's carry ourselves the same way. Let's make sure that we're always practicing. We're always trying to hone those skill sets. Claudio Salas has a Skillshare class, and it's a character animation thing, and so much great information. The big thing I took out of it, this son of a bitch, he selected 3 layers, right-clicked in After Effects, and hit invert selection. I didn't even know that was a thing. Shied all the layers, and then rather than having 100 layers, just had 3. That little bit changed my workflow forever. Working with Gunner, I learned from Ian, Nick, and when you're doing stuff, and John, every frame matters. Every frame. It doesn't matter. We're doing 24 frames a second. Nobody's going to see. Who gives a shit? You're going to see. Integrity's everything. They taught me this word slivers. And I was like, oh, all right. We're stepping it up here. What it means is you're going frame by frame. You're checking. You're making sure everything's clean. Everything's the way that you intended. And that goes so far. That goes so far for the end quality. It means you care. It means that you're trying. And you can learn that stuff from people. It means we're going to have to learn some of the hard stuff. UV mapping. Learning how to do kerning in Keynote, because I didn't learn that apparently. What I'm trying to say is easy choices are going to make your life hard. Hard choices are going to make your life easy. So if you have a path, you can either go easy or difficult, pick the difficult choice. Moving on. 9 is appeal. And I mean this in the most genuine way. I just used the word. Being genuine is greater than everything. when you reach out to people, producers did a great job talking about this, letting you know to email them. What I want to say is do not only email people when you need something, okay? It's desperate and it smells. Don't be known for that person who, oh, I got an email from Steve, probably asking for work. Our industry's great. Everybody around here, y'all creating amazing stuff, and I fucking love it, and I hope that you keep doing it. And when you do, I'm gonna let you know if I see it. I'm gonna say, hey, that's awesome. If somebody posts something, I love that work that you did. Why? Because we're trying to put good into everything. We want to keep feeding that good wolf. And that's not just about us. Like I said, it's not about us. So let's keep feeding that good wolf. Straight ahead and pose to pose. In cell animation, straight ahead has a great place. When it comes to business, there's no time for straight ahead. We need to go pose to pose when it comes to freelance. We need to know our end game, and then we can set targets along the way. And then we'll start to hit those targets. Oh, there's a keyword up there that you all are seeing. There's a book called Eat That Frog, and what it says is write down your tomorrow's to-do list today. So that way you know what to go through. So if you have a project you're working on, you know what you need to get done the next day, let's write it down. So that way when social media drags you away, when you eat too much at lunch, you have a roadmap of how to get back there. Your actions matter. When it comes to booking, we want to make sure that, let me see here, go to the second slide. We're communicating upfront from the beginning. I tell everybody that books me, for the most part, that this is what I rate, this is my rate, this is my weekend rate, this is when I like to get paid, and I bill in contiguous days. Why do I say contiguous? Because it sounds fucking awesome. Contiguous means bookend. Once we start a project, we go until the project ends. Nothing wrong with that, because if you're booked elsewhere, you'd be making those time. But rather than getting mad, again, we're looking at anticipation, something we talked about. We want to go backwards. Let's try to fix this stuff before it can go wrong. So we're going to be open. In my opinion, about to split the room real quick, and everybody's going to hate me, I love holds. I think holds are great. I respect that you all hate them. I get it. However, what holds do is they give you an opportunity to at least have a conversation with a producer. You're a real person. You're on their map. Take it as a compliment. It means that somebody wants to work with you. They would book you if the project was greenlit. The project is not greenlit yet. They have a business to run too, so just be mindful of that type of stuff. Just make a positive out of it, even though if it may not feel like one. Secondary action. This is a quick one. We try to do everything ourselves. How many of you are guilty of trying to do your own taxes? Let's weigh this out. If you can hire someone to do something for less than your rate, do it. And I'm talking about taxes, not what you actually get paid to do. Home renovations, any type of hardware. Billy, I don't think you're here, but maybe you are. Computer hardware questions. Don't waste time that you'll be using to make money. 12, staging. It all starts with your mind. We're going to full circle it back. Everything starts with up here. All right, how does your morning begin? Is it with social media? Are you looking for that dopamine kick, like ARCs, like we talked about? All right, most of us can go all day desiring what we don't have. We're not going to be happy. So set a routine that drives you, 30 minutes every morning. Whatever it is, just something to balance you out. Everybody's is going to be a little bit different. Challenge 2. Not going to make you get in a cold shower. I'm not going to make you do anything. It's a choice. You just can't unhear it. For the next 10 days. I had 7 days originally. I was like, no, we're going 10. When you wake up, don't look at your cell phone first. If it wakes up because it's an alarm, cool. Go outside first. Before you do anything, wake up, stand up. All right, cool. Stand outside. All right, fuck, Steve did it. All right. Back inside. What's going to happen is you're going to create a habit of getting that sunlight first. And that goes a long way. I don't have too much time here. If you have questions on how to pitch yourself to a company, I have a great thing that I do want to talk about, and it's about how you turn an I into something about them. What you say is, rather than when they come to you needing work, rather than saying, yeah, we'll talk about that later. I can't sum that one up. Again, whether you think you're right or whether you think you can't, or whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. If you know me, keyframes greater than dynamics. Have to say that real quick. Thank you all so much for having me. Thank you, Dash, for putting this on. My name is Steve Savalle. That is my 12 Principles of Freelance.